I call the member for Goldstein.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. And Deputy Speaker, I want to start by echoing the sentiments of the minister who responded to the motion moved by the member for Clark this afternoon. In particular, the point around we welcome this opportunity to talk about it, the outcomes, the policies, the measures of the Morrison government in stewarding our environment, because it goes to the core of who we are as a Liberal government. As a Liberal government, we understand our sense of responsibility. In fact, Liberalism is anchored around the principles of responsibility and empowerment, and that we're able to hand to future generations an economy that's as prosperous as the one we inherited, a united society as much as we inherited, and as healthy an environment to steward to future generations. The one question I do have to ask is whether the Leader of the Greens is going to be speaking on this motion. I suspect he will, because unlike this government, unlike our party, unlike our record, it has been consistent in supporting the environment as part of advancing the forward-looking nation of this country. As the minister outlined, we were the party that established the Minister for the Environment. She left one of the things, the minister left one of the things off the list. John Howard's government established the Australian Greenhouse Office, something no doubt the Greens and other parties would like to airbrush out of history, particularly when you compare it to the Greens as a political party that was founded on a platform to oppose renewable energy investment, and we should never let them forget that. And I was reminded of this the other day, Deputy Speaker, when I got an email from a Christine Milne AO, a former member of the other place, from the Bob Brown Foundation, the founder of the Australian Greens, arguing against more renewable energy investment in Australia, and particularly connecting renewable energy from Tasmania to the mainland. It is just despicable. But that's the difference between our approach on this side of the chamber, achieving practical outcomes, delivering for the Australian people, and taking the community sustainably forward with us, compared to the high and lofty rhetoric of our political opponents, not just those, of course, in the opposition party, but, of course, other parties and, of course, at times independents, who like to talk the talk but have no practice, no reality in walking the walk. And we see this critically in the area of climate change, where this government not only took targets to the last election and the one before it to deliver outcomes by 2020, by 2030, and we're in the process of developing that for 2050, compared to our political opponents who set lofty ambitions of what they want to achieve in 2030, but you cannot hear them utter a word about it anymore. In fact, they now talk about targets so far outside their control, it's guaranteed to make sure they are never held to account for any single person sitting in this chamber, because it's an abrogation of their responsibility, because they like to talk the talk, but they're not interested in the delivery. What we have focused on at every point is how we transition the Australian economy to take Australians with us, by making sure we deliver it not just with the targets, but the practical outcomes and the investment to make sure that the improvement in the environment is realised. And whether it is the $1.9 billion reef plan, whether it is our investment in Antarctica, whether it's the investment in ARENA, whether it's the investment in the CFC, whether it's the investment on small-scale investments throughout the country to transition different parts of the economy, in agriculture, in energy, no matter where it is, we are there and contributing every step of the way. And we saw this only last night in this chamber, where the Assistant Minister for the Environment and Waste Reduction tried to pass legislation in this very parliament to modernise our recycling sector. Important legislation which will lead to more investment, but critically address some of the issues we've had around the volume of exports of materials that could be recycled here, creating jobs and investment in our great country. And what was the political response? It should have been from our opponents to support it every step of the way, stand up and speak in favour of it. Instead, they frustrated and obstructed it at every point. It took hours to pass through this parliament, and for no reason other than political vanity from our political opponents. because they simply have no plan of their own in comparison to the concrete measures we are implementing every day as part of the legacy of this government.